Maybe we can start with Immanuel Kant. And I'm going to blame Kant for a lot. I love to blame Kant. Anybody here tried to read Kant? All right, some of you have. Really easy to read, right? Very quick, fun reading. He's very difficult. But even if you've never read Kant, and even if you read Kant, that doesn't mean you quite understand what he's trying to get at. But you have been influenced by him, whether you know it or not. That's just the reality. So Kant is he's a late Enlightenment figure in Germany, and Kant is really trying to reconcile a couple different trends that are going on in philosophy at this time. And you have two broad groups, and there are different figures with different beliefs, but oftentimes, philosophers generally group them into two categories. You've got the empiricists and the idealists. Okay, and the empiricists are those who believe that knowledge comes basically from our sense experience. Famously, John Locke says the mind is a tabula rasa, it's a blank slate. So the empiricist would say that, there's really nothing kind of imprinted necessarily on the mind, but the mind gets these impressions on it as you experience. You see, hear, touch, whatever, the different things in your life, and then those experiences are how you know reality. A lot of the empiricists are in England. Not all of them, but that's where it's kind of a major movement. You have this other group of thinkers that are rationalists. Now, the empiricists can also be rationalists too, so there's a bit of crossover. But you've got the empiricists, and then you've got these what are called idealists. Idealists are those who prize ideas above all else. The ideas are the ultimate reality. So, how do I know ultimate reality? I know it by kind of just thinking, kind of getting in my head and thinking through what logically follows what. That's the idealist perspective. So the basic question is, how do I know things? Do I know things through what I experience through my senses or what I think in my head? Kant tried to reconcile those two things. He tried to make a system which would take account of both of those realities. But in doing so, there's one particular idea I want to talk about here that becomes influential for readings of Martin Luther. And it is important to note that Kant was in a Lutheran pietist home. So he did have a Lutheran background. And that did form him in some pretty significant ways. It also meant, because he's German, raised in a Lutheran family, that means that he influences Lutheran German theology very significantly as well. And there's a distinction that Kant makes between the Numina and the phenomena. The Numina is what he calls the Ding an sich, the thing in itself. And this is things as they actually are. So the thing in itself is what a thing actually is in its essence. The phenomena is how a thing appears to me. I could say, here's a podium. What is actually the essence or nature of this podium in itself, apart from me? That's the Numina for Kant, and I don't really know. But what do I know? I know what it feels like to my sense of touch. I would know what it tasted like if I decided to lick it. I won't do that. But, you can experience things by your senses. But for Kant, that phenomena is all you know. So all I know is all I can really know for certain, and he does have these other truths that are more universal, but we're talking about the world that we experience. What we really know for certain is not what the world is in itself, but just how it affects me. So how does this affect our view of Jesus? Well, Kant deals with the question of God, and is sometimes considered to be a religious thinker, and that he's kind of saving religion in some way for the rationalists because he puts God in his system somewhere. But generally, God becomes just kind of pragmatic. It works better to assume the existence of God because it gives us a kind of fear. So Kant has this emphasis on moral duties. And if you have a God, it's more likely that you're going to obey your moral duties because you have some fear that God might punish you if you don't do them, or reward you if you do them well. That's basically the basis for religion for Kant. That's it. So what does Kant say then about God's actual existence? That's the Numina. That's the thing in itself. That's the realm that I don't access. So who knows? Who knows? That's really where Kant comes.